Sicilian triumph is the preparation of the battleship, preparing it for battle. The mechanism of the hierarchy of the ship allows for the cabin boy to become the captain of the ship. The teaching system, your own system, and the system that allows to make changes. So what do we have next? Next, we have complete coordination. All of the three systems get combined into one human, and at that point, he needs no one. The most important thing in Sicily is the mechanisms of task fulfillment and the conditions of preparation. The classifications are given to you by the consultants. Then we move a level down to the commanders and they give you the tactics. Then we go step down to the soldiers and they teach you technical elements and mechanisms and so forth and so on. And that is the system, the consultants, the commanders and the soldiers. We are already in Corleone, and we are sitting in front of the cathedral. And this is the best place to talk about the main principle and algorithm. Here we will talk about the main algorithm of change. As you remember, you have the consultants. In the Sicilian system, the consultants, they give us the classification. Why is this important? Because everything is always not what you think it is. Until you start to understand what you're dealing with, you will always make mistakes. After that, we have step number 2. Number 2 is tactics. So what are we moving towards? We're moving towards the change of your memorized actions. Why should it even be changed? In order to stop throwing others off the top of the mountain, you must learn to solve problems a different way. Otherwise, nothing will change, and people don't really like change. The only thing that pushes them towards change is pressure. And when some situations in life happen, we become tense. And then we start asking questions. How can this be solved? Maybe we can pay someone to help me out. The thing is those questions have to arrive before you are put under pressure. You have to kind of see ahead and know that you will be provoked and know that you will be put under pressure. And it does not matter if we're at war with a situation or a person. You really should think ahead and learn the actions that you will need in the future to solve any type of situation that you might be faced with. And this is precisely why, on the first step, it's very important to get the right classification, because only then you'll be able to get the effective tactics. What's going to happen? What are they going to do? And then we have to create a counter-tactic. Tactics and counter-tactics is the basis of life of a human. Situations will occur, and we have to put something to that situation to get a result. And from here, the tactics gives birth to the need for mechanisms, tools, and principles. And then here, when we make the fourth step, we have to practice and train with all of those. Train in tactics, train with the mechanisms of task fulfillment, to train in using the right principles, attributes, and tools and items. So depending on what we're doing, we're forced to gain more and more of that memorized action. All this will allow a person to react very quickly and reach results in the ever-changing atmosphere around him. Let me bring up a situation for you to understand better. So say sometime in your lifetime you are faced with a medieval duel with pistols. This is just an example so you can understand. Well, I have to understand at first if it's some kind of a duel, there will be some sort of rules. of the duel. So here I need the classification. I need to understand how it's going to happen, what can be done, what cannot be done. After I apply some sort of principles, then the question is of the tactics that I'm going to use. After I understand the rules of the duel, then I have to understand what are the abilities of my opponent, what are my abilities, and I need to formulate some kind of a counter tactic. And from here, the actions will be formulated. Which gun do I need to practice with? Which mechanisms of task fulfillment I should use. And those are the things we're going to train and learn in order to win the duel. And that's how the memorized actions get changed. So until the classification, tactics, and the mechanisms of task fulfillment are not realized, it's all worthless. If that's all not done, then we get to the duel, we get handed a gun that we've never seen before, and for us this is an unknown dynamical task. For our opponent it's a known task, that's why he invited us and he will kill us. And usually the unknown situations push a person to change his memorized action that he knows and currently uses. And this block of the system is a universal step-by-step plan to make changes. So we're moving towards becoming that ship god, becoming not needing that system that we just spoke about. And a person becomes a ship god when he is a consultant to himself, he's a commander of himself, and he is a soldier of himself. And this person can take place at any one of those by himself. He has become the walking weapon. He has become the mechanism of task fulfillment. And on the fourth step, we have somebody who's able to solve any problem and to be able to get a fatal result. And a person that demonstrates this from time to time again, in the end result will become that ship god. Our world is structured in such a way that people are pulled towards results, whether we like it or not. But most people use those consultants that throw others off the top of the mountain. To you they seem nice and good and you understand them, but in the end result, you will also be thrown off the top of the mountain. Why does this happen? Well, it's because you make a mistake at the very beginning when you choose your consultants. You're relying on experience that doesn't let you look at the situation with clear objectivity. Important thing, if you don't have truth, you don't have results. If you don't have results, you don't have truth. Those two things are like the scales of justice. So this algorithm of change in order to reach results, and the mechanism of gaining knowledge and understanding how it is all done. So those two things, okay, so you have the boss, the commanders, and you. Then you have the classification, tactics, and the mechanisms of task fulfillment. And the change of the memory of the actions. And you're on the same level there. So you have to change your actions. You have to change the way you act. You have to change from the non-effective actions to the effective actions. And that's the fundamental base of triumph, is to change the way you act. So those two systems is what allows a person to understand that he needs to change his actions into successful ones. In Sicily, this is the way they act. In the time of danger, they are hot, but in the time of any regular time, they're calm because they're busy with raising their level of preparation. And they don't pay attention to others. In Corleone, you can definitely see this model of behavior. The model of behavior is the base of the Sicilian triumph. And the way of life in Sicily molds this style of behavior. And having those two systems, a person gets the knowledge from one, and from the other system, he gets the abilities. Because knowledge gives birth to the abilities of how to reach results. And all that gives birth to a fatally resultful human. And in the end, this person will become the magnet that people will get pulled towards. that will give birth to a group of people, and after that they will become a team, and that will give us the ship. So the mechanism of the Sicilian triumph is to get a battleship ready for battle and travels. So the whole life is based on one part of the life is getting the ship ready, and the second part is going out on that ship and getting those pearls and gold. And at that point, the ship god becomes to flourish and becomes able to feed himself and to feed his people.
И, так сказать, возможности существования, то есть там пропитание, проживание и так далее, и своим людям обеспечиваешь это. То есть ты ответственность несешь как командир корабля не только за себя, но и за всех остальных, которые вокруг тебя. А твоя сбранга несет ответственность за команду, которая как бы она руководит. И получается корабль.
The model of the algorithm of change is the model of training on the ship. And the model of this hierarchy that exists on the ship allows a cabin boy to become the commander of a ship. And he's allowed to do this by going through the trainings that happen on the ship. So after he goes through all this, he becomes the captain of the ship. And this is the Sicilian triumph. This is what it's based on. And the same way it happens in any company. Just like a cabin boy becomes a captain, in business, the same steps are taken to becoming the owner of a business. Different tools are chosen on all those 4 levels. And the arsenal that's chosen allows to fulfill the counter tactics. And only then we get the base of the ship god or the triumph. When a child is born, we all understand that he doesn't have any kind of tactical arsenal. So let's see where this arsenal comes from. And how is it decided that this arsenal will be used? From the viewpoint of conditions, there are 3 things that decide the technical arsenal. His first technical arsenal he gets from the place that he's born, then from the people that surround him, then from the information that he has access to. All those elements set the boundaries for his technical arsenal. And those boundaries become obstacles that the human cannot jump over himself. And that's how he gets the need for counter-tactics. So we come to an understanding that the technical arsenal will be based from the counter-tactics on all of the different levels. On the spiritual level, on the psychological level, on the biological level, and on the physical level. If he does not have the tactical arsenal built up on all 4 levels, he will always be facing obstacles. It will be physical obstacles, it will be biological obstacles. What are biological obstacles? You know, that's when you have a fever, when you get sick. Psychological obstacles and spiritual obstacles. Spiritual obstacles are the obstacles that have to do with strength. So when you're searching for a technical arsenal that's not based on counter tactics, you're not going to get any sort of technical arsenal. Sicily has the conditions that allow a person to gain and construct a full system. So the Sicilian system is a human system that is taken outside of the human. Let me explain what I mean. The spiritual part is the boss. The psychological part, it's the consultants. The biological part, it's the commanders. And the physical part, it's the soldiers. So it's just like a human system that's brought outside of the human and constructed a whole structure outside. Is it possible to get by without this system? No. The question is which hierarchy you will be using when you're choosing the consultants, commanders, and the soldiers, the ones that are used to throwing the others off the mountain. In this case, you will never learn anything else. Counter tactics can exist only when there's a task at hand. If you don't understand the task, if you don't understand the counter tactic, if you're unable to jump those barriers, if you don't even know what type of barriers are going to be placed in front of you, you get what is called the degree of importance. The degree of importance is such a thing, it's going to be switching you every day. And every day you're going to have a different degree of importance. And that's the result of identification. A person that's in process of identifying, he has constant degree of importance. Everything is always not what it seems. When you have a task put in front of you, you always start looking for the answer to the word how. So what you're doing is you're searching for the technical arsenal. That means that you have missed the stage of classification and counter tactics. And in the result, you start grabbing everything you can get your hands on. American books, shady consultants. And the thing that you choose as the answer is something that allows for your comfort, something that you like. To solve a particular problem, you have to choose the arsenal that will fulfill the needs of the counter tactics. And if this is not done, then it's almost like you're trying to nail a nail into the wall using a plastic plate instead of a hammer. It's not going to be effective, or it's not going to work at all. It's not enough just to have the technical arsenal available. You have to be able to make a system from the arsenal. So say you have this type of arsenal, this type of arsenal, and this type of arsenal. It has to be connected all into a system that is counteractive with each other. So if we don't have that, then all we have is just some tools that are still need to be turned into the technical arsenal. To do this, the tools have to be brought into some kind of a system. That's something people don't understand. And there's one more condition that guarantees the results. And obviously, it would be very, very good if the tools and mechanisms were primordial, meaning those initial tools that existed that all the other tools and mechanisms degraded into. Because if I know the initial tools and mechanisms, obviously I know all the other degraded ones, because those ones are easier. How can the initial tools be warped? Well, you either make them more complex or more simpler. So when you have a warped tactics, warped counter tactics, and warped mechanisms of task fulfillment, then the task will not be solved because you're just using the opinions of someone else's teachers that have been warped. It's like someone taught someone, then that someone taught someone else, and at the end we have technical elements without the system. Aside from the block that teaches you, aside from the block that makes changes, the Sicilian system has a third leg, and that's your own system. And how does that appear? We have to understand the counter tactics, choose the best arsenal that exists, then by putting it into a system, test it on physical models and in practice. Then we throw away that does not work. Then, using instruments, we add back that what does work. Then we test it again in practice. After that, we throw away again what does not work. And just like this, after a certain period of time, you will get a system that will work for you personally, that will work in your hands. It's not important that it's not going to work for other people. It's not important that you can't teach it to other people. But for you personally, it should work flawlessly. After this, the system turns into your uncompromised advantage. One of the best things about it is it's impossible for somebody to copy it, because two of the same exact people does not exist. So every person has to create his own system that will allow him to solve this task. If a person doesn't have the want to become the captain of the ship, he's a slave. So it's either a masterpiece or the corridor. The corridor is for the slave. Masterpiece, it's that what the person has to make of himself. And that what we spoke about in the last block, that gives birth to real problems. So it's either triumph or the corridor to the death. So the triumph is a vertical movement up. A corridor is a horizontal movement. It's definitely everybody's choice which way they want to go. But usually nobody asks them anything. Nobody asks them for their choice. Corridor is life from importance to importance. The chase after power and money in the state of constant fear. And what everyone is afraid of the most is that at the moment that you're not expecting, somebody will throw you off that mountain. Triumph meaning you have to become the ship god. So those three systems that we've been talking about, your own system, the system that teaches, and then the third system that allows to make changes. So when all those three systems get combined into one person, then he doesn't need anyone ever again. Then we have the ship god or the triumph. Technically at that point we have the captain of the ship. Most people that are living in certain conditions, they don't know anything about all of this. And they're forced to take the corridor. Just imagine some guy is sitting in the bar, he goes to work, he finished college. His life has already been written to the very end. The only thing that could happen is his life can get cut short by some kind of a misfortune. So his life is already written down. He lives like everybody else. And until he likes that lifestyle, that comfortable lifestyle of living like everybody else, he will never look for something better, something more. He feels like what he has is enough for him. And this is a real illness that is called slavery. The key factor between a human and the slave is a human always wants to get more and to have more than he has right now. He wants to have more results. He wants to raise his level of preparation. The levels of preparation are never ending and can go endlessly. If a person doesn't want to become the captain of the ship, he's a slave. So you have to make the choice. Do you want to be a slave or a human? So when we say either the corridor or the masterpiece, the corridor is for the slaves. A masterpiece is something that the human has to make of himself when he becomes the captain of the ship. And you not only have to become a captain of the ship, you have to become a good captain of the ship. Because you cannot be a bad captain of the ship. The reason, because you will wreck the ship and kill the people on it. It's a big responsibility. And this type of a person, you cannot get him out of balance by any means. The system that's standing on three contact points completely solves the problem of triumph. The base of the Venetian school is the fatal results. Next question that I want to talk about is coordination. What does this mean, coordination? Let's do an experiment so you can understand better. Let's imagine a human being that's standing on one leg. This type of person is absolutely static, he's standing still. Now, is he coordinated? First we need to understand what is coordination. So he's standing on one leg. He is not moving at all. And we can imagine that he is not very well balanced. If we kind of take and push this construction, it will obviously fall. And at this point, we ask ourselves a question. What is the difference between coordination and, say, cleverness? When a person who is, say, pushed to one side or the other side, leaning forward and backward by different situations, and is still able to fulfill tasks and move on and solve different tasks, this type of person is considered coordinated. Now, if a person is coordinated and he is able to fulfill tasks like a master, then he is also clever. So, speaking about the technology, what do we mean by coordinated in the technology? So in the technology, it means having all of those three legs, all of those three technologies that we've been talking about. So the first system, the first contact point, is the system that teaches you. So having access to the system that teaches you is the first contact point. The contact point number two, the leg number two, is the system that allows to make changes, classifications, tactics, tools and mechanisms, and at the end result, the change of your memory action. And that's the second leg. And the third leg, when we speak about the third leg, that's when we have already a built system of our own. It is impossible to get this type of person out of balance. The three vertical blocks keep him completely steady. So this triangle doesn't leave any room to get a person out of balance. Not only does the person that can't get out of balance, but his system can't get out of balance because of this. The deeds, the businesses that everybody is doing with you, it doesn't allow that to get out of balance. So this system of the three legs is the condition that allows triumph to happen to a person. If one of the legs doesn't exist, you will be faced with obstacles that are gonna get you out of balance and disorganized. So, but when we have all those three systems in place, we are ready to start moving up and raising our level of preparation because we have everything that allows for us to do so. And no barriers will be placed before us.
Если мы говорим о самой технологии, то фундамент этой технологии являются вот эти три ноги, вот эти три ноги.
And as soon as the system that is ready to work with, when the system is ready that you can go to ask questions, you know, like the training system, one of the systems that we spoke about. And when we have the system that allows to make changes, and all the three systems start working together, what do we get after that? Well, we get absolute coordination. You know how a cat falls on all four legs from any position. That's kind of how you become. As you know, the symbol of Sicily is a three-legged thing with a head, and that is the base of the Sicilian system. That symbol is those three legs that we've been talking about. And this system is Venetian. We know that because there's a mask there, if you remember. So we know that Sicily uses the Venetian system. The Sicilian school and the school of Svetlov, my teacher, they are Venetian schools. And the Venetian school is based on the fatal results. If you don't use polishing and final touches, then you have just climbed the mountain, and somebody will always throw you off. The right result is the ship commander made by the Sicilian technology. No other technology will work properly. And before this request, everyone is equal. So we're going into multifunctionality.